afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shane Sibley from the Paul Pewitt Brahma Football Facebook page and Ben Bomber Productions. We are honored today to be able to sit down with new athletic director and head football coach Richard Strickland from Paul Pewitt High School. Coach Strickland, are excited. We're glad to be able to visit with you today. To start off with, tell us a little bit about your history, your background, your football background, your playing background, coaching background. Let us know a little bit about yourself.
My football background goes all the way back to when I was young. I grew up in DeQueen, Arkansas. It was kind of like this place. It was a little bigger, but you grew up wanting to be a leopard. You'd go to the football games on Friday night. You'd go play in the end zone down there and hope you didn't get ran over by one of the big kids. You know, so I fell in love with football. And honestly, my high school football coach, I probably would have never thought about playing college football until he brought me in one day and said, "Hey, you're going to have a shot." And I was like, "Really? You think so?" And he came and got me at my house on a Saturday morning and took me to Fayetteville to a Houston Nut invite camp, and got seen by a lot of Division II schools in the state, and started, you know, getting recruited a little bit, and went from there and ended up playing at Henderson State in Central Arkansas, and really enjoyed my playing career and building those relationships with all the buddies that I still have to this day from that. Best man at my wedding was my quarterback at UCA. So those relationships are lifetime. I got into coaching because of my high school coach. He really showed interest in me and cared about me, and that's why I feel like I am a good relationship coach with kids, and because I had a high school coach that cared about me and made a difference in my life. So that's ultimately why I chose to get into the profession.
What position did you play?
I played receiver, a little running back, and I was a skill athlete and played linebacker on defense.
Tell us about your family.
My family, I've been married for close to 12 years, got a daughter named Tally. She's 10. She's going into the 5th grade here at Pewitt. Reed, my boy, is 3 years old, and we're expecting a daughter, Tatum, May 11th at 11 in the morning. We got the C-section scheduled, so that's coming up, and we're super excited about all that and scared at the same time with the way the world is right now. So
yeah.
A lot of uncertainty with the move and introducing a new family member.
What has been the biggest challenge for you as a coach, and how did that change you or mold you up to this point?
Well, I think at the beginning of my career, I was very win-based oriented, and that's why I was doing it. I think I got caught in that trap for a little while, to where it was just, if I wasn't winning, I wasn't happy. And then it finally dawned on me I can do both, because one thing I do try to do is I'm going to value every player the same across the board, whether they score 40 touchdowns or whether they can't play for me at all. If you're willing to show up and be accountable and do the things that I ask of you, I want you on my football program. In fact, I'm going to try to find ways to promote that to where you do get awarded for being a good person and being good in our schools, being a leader in the hallways. So it doesn't take athletic ability to do that, and so that's something that I'm trying to build culture-wise to get everybody involved that wants to be involved.
Now, I know this is probably a question you may or may not have an answer to, and the question that everybody probably has, every coach in the entire country. How do you, and coming into this situation as the new guy,
right
now, if you were returning, it would still be difficult.
Right.
But coming in as the new guy and not having met your kids yet,
right.
your players yet, how do you see yourself adapting to that? I mean, what steps do you see taking in order
right.
for that?
You know, coming in, not being able to meet the kids, you know, I mean, this is very unlikely situation, what we're doing right now. But with that being said, we've got to adapt and formulate a game plan and go do it. So my thoughts is going forward from this, I'm going to have some sort of Zoom meeting by grade level, go from there, and have some little more detail and not be so broad on some things about, you know, how we're going to contact you, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, workout-wise for the summer until we can see you. Because right now, you got to operate under the current guidelines, which is I can't have contact. So that's a weird deal. I mean, it really is. But on the flip side of that, you know, one of the reasons I was interested in this job to begin with was the tradition of Paul Pewitt. And one thing I need the kids to understand is you're going to have to pony up and prove to me what that tradition is, because our tradition is going to have to carry us, because I don't know when I'm going to meet you. I don't know whether we're going to have 2 months to coach you. I don't know whether we're going to have 3 weeks to coach you. Whichever way that goes, I don't care. We're going to figure out a way to win, and that all relies on you guys, and you better have your uncles and your dads and your grandpas' backs and represent Bremen Nation and continue the tradition that we've had.
Speaking on tradition, you've been at some schools that have had some very rich tradition. And so obviously you know about the tradition of success here at Pewitt. What experience do you bring in that's going to build on that?
I have coached at the state championship level multiple times. I've been blessed to win it a few times. And with that, what people don't understand is those communities are a lot alike. Winners win, and communities that are committed to winning, in my opinion, I feel like I've got the opportunity to take a good situation and create a great situation for everybody involved. I like the thought that I'm coming into a school that just went to the state championship. A lot of people would be pressured by that. Me, I just smile at it, because I'm just like, well, we're about to go win that thing, and we're going to figure out how to do it, and let's get it done. And that's contributed to every kid that has played on this football team in the past. So as far as my prior experience with championship caliber programs, accountability is going to be our standard. Whatever we decide as coaches, the kids are just going to have to understand that structure is going to be a part of our daily activity. And honestly, I don't think we'll have many issues with that here, because these kids love football. I think they're going to come out and do what we ask them, and I think whenever this is over, they're going to be ready to light each other up and put them pads on and get it hot.
You've met with the coaches, obviously, and the principals, and what do you know about the athletes here?
Obviously I've got, access to the huddle, and it's still hard to watch film, because you're constantly going to look at a roster and be like, is he still here? Is he not still here? So you really can't gauge it fully off of that. So I kind of have to go off of what I'm being told right now, because I don't know anybody. Right. But also on the flip side of that, when I do get to see people face to face, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It's what you do in the present and the future going forward with me.
You told me that you weren't really looking for a job.
Right.
Was this one that you saw and went, hey, I'll apply for that? Or did somebody call you and go, hey, you might nudge you in that direction?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, I keep up. I've always kept up. So I was following Pewitt's run. Once they got to about the third round, I was like, okay, we got an East Texas team in there. So I started keeping up with it, and then I watched the state championship game, actually from my couch in Arkansas. Before I was ever thought about for this job, I was watching these guys on TV. I thought right then, I was like, my goodness, these kids can go. They can play. And didn't think much else about it. Then I just had a friend call me and say, hey, did you know that Paul Pewitt's coach went to Mejia? And I said, no, I didn't. I said, how far exactly is that from Texarkana? And they were like, I said, God almighty, it's right there, because we are from Arkansas.
Right.
So I've always tried to keep a bubble for family, to where, all right, if we got to get back in a day, we can get back in a day type deal. We my wife and I have kind of kept that 3 hours roughly. But with that being said, I honestly don't think there's been a better head coach job opening in the whole state this year. In my opinion. I mean, I had to pull over on the side of the road when I got the job offer. I was driving down the road, and I about fell out of my rocking chair. I no more expected that call than a man in the moon, so I was very, very excited and blessed to get that phone call.
So you also said that in your interview you had made the comment that you would come here to Pewitt and win a state championship, or you could stay in Nashville and win one. Is that your goal?
Well, obviously that is the ultimate goal. But we've got to sit down. I mean, we got a non-conference schedule, a conference schedule, and if you take care of business on those, it's going to put you in position to make a playoff run. But ultimately, it's going to be 1 week at a time and go from there. Also, on the flip side, to sit here and not say that I feel like that is a credible, realistic goal for this upcoming season, I would be lying, just outright, just lying. So yes, that is, but there's a lot of hurdles in the way. There's a lot of things that happen between now and then.
If you could sum up your philosophy for coaching, what would that be?
For like my coaching style, like my personal coaching style,
yeah.
I'm going to love the kids, okay? And with that being said, I'm going to be a father-like figure to them, but that doesn't mean I'm always nice. What I mean by that is I'm not going to treat anybody's kid any different than I would mine. Right? I'm not going to cuss and berate kids, but there's not going to be a question of who they answer to as a child to the adults around here. So we're going to have structure and accountability and discipline. That's going to be the things that we're going to do to be a part of our football program, athletic program in general, altogether. We're going to act right and be decent people. The biggest lesson for high school kids to learn, in my opinion, is self-sacrifice, okay? Well, I was told to do this, but I don't really want to do that, but I need to do that for the good of the whole. If you can get kids to actually say, you know what, the guy said I got to do this. We don't got time sometimes for a bunch of questioning back and forth. So we just got to pull forward and go through and get it done.
I'm sure you've been asked this question concerning offense.
Right. I'll tell you the whole thinking behind this for me, all right? So, being really honest, I've got good friends that are coaches, etc., that I think could do a great job, right? But on the flip side of that, I don't necessarily think I'm the most intelligent person on the planet, but I am smart enough to understand that we led the country in rushing yards last year. Yeah. And the guy that led that, as far as coaching-wise, is still here. I mean, Coach looked me straight in the face and told me he's going to be the most loyal person that I've ever worked with within 3 minutes of sitting down with him. To me, that floored me, that he was so just humble, and the gratitude just for being a part of the school district, it really made me kind of buy into him. And he didn't even realize that, and he may not realize that yet, but it really did. You know, the decision to stay with Coach Cumrow as the offensive coordinator. And, of course, I'm also going to have say. I'm obviously the head coach, so we'll do some things that I want to do, but I'm not going to break something that's running really, really well.
What about defensive? I know you were the defense coordinator there at Nashville.
Now, defensively is going to be new for the kids. Right. So, you know, we're going to do all my terminology. I run a band system. We're going to base out of a 3-4 defense, but I am very, very multiple as far as fronts, movements, pre-snap, leverage, whatever it is we're doing. I've got a band system set up to where, say, you know, the D-line, none of their band's going to say the same thing, but I know the puzzle in my mind, what it's going to end up being. So one kid might look at their band and it say 4 mop. Well, 4 mop means I line up in a 4, and then mop means move opposite. So how do I do that? I move from a 4 to a 5, and I slant back to where I came from. Well, that'll change a blocking rule for that offensive lineman in front of him. So I take people's blocking schemes from their offensive perspective and defeat it with uncertainty that I create on the defensive side of the football, both with the front, with our linebackers. If I know you're in a certain protection, I'm going to walk the linebacker in there and force you to slide one way or the other. Those are the type of things I'm going to do, and bluffing with the secondary. It sounds like it's a lot of stuff, but once we get it taught, it'll be effortless, and they'll understand what we're doing, and it'll come together, and we'll be flying to the football. I'm a very, very aggressive defensive play caller. I'm going to try to win games. We're never going to just say, okay, we hope they mess up. We're going to try to force them to mess up. I feel like our offensive mentality has to match our defensive mentality. Right. My best defensives has always been on teams that were run first. The few teams that I had that we threw the ball more, we wasn't as good defensively because our kids were soft, because we're running routes and not blocking anybody and things like that. So our defense is definitely going to match our offense, because quarterbacks better show me they can throw, baby. That's all I know.
Building relationships
right.
in any sport is extremely important. How do you, in a normal situation, how do you build a relationship?
Being there and developing trust, and through the relationship is, like I was talking about, taking care of kids as if they're my own. Call them and check on them. Go pick them up if I need them to be here and they don't have a way here. In a town like this, it's going to be Strickland taxi service. And the rest of these coaches too. I mean, if we got to go out here in the woods and go get somebody, we're doing it. And that kind of stuff goes a long way. Kids can tell if you care about them and whether you're genuine or not. So I really feel like the way that I treat everybody, all the kids are going to look and be like, look, he doesn't care who you are. He just wants you to act right and to be good. So I feel like that'll take care of itself.
With the different coaches that you've worked for, who would you say has probably been the most influential on you?
Boy, I've had a bunch. My high school coach, Jeff Jones, he was a huge testament to me growing up. He probably kept me on the straight and narrow more than anybody, and he doesn't even realize that he did it. But as far as coming up through the coaching circle, Scott Surratt at Carthage has always been there for me. Ken Little passed away in 2012. Ken was the defensive coordinator when I first got to Henderson. I remember I had said something on a Saturday while we were game planning for somebody, and it must have been stupid because his response was this. He looked at me and he goes, "Strickland, if you just shut up for 3 years and just write down what I say on a notepad, I'll make a coach out of you yet." And so I was like, okay, all right. And so literally, pretty much what I did, I just kind of attached myself to him, and my goodness, he was phenomenal with kids, X's and O's, everything. I mean, the things that he made adjustments during games, I still don't know that I've seen that since then. And also the current head coach at Henderson High School, Phil Castles, has been terrific to my family and I. He's a great Christian role model, and he actually has set the blueprint for a lot of the things that we'll do here from a day-to-day basis. And I mean, Coach Castles, introduced me to Coaches Outreach, and it's a Bible study for coaches, made for coaches, and it's an optional deal, obviously, but that's a way that you can build relationships with your staff that's totally not related to school. And if everybody's on that same page, great. And he introduced me to that, and I'm forever grateful that he was that type of leader for me.
What is one thing that you would say to a community that is coming off of what was an absolutely crazy year,
right,
from being a major underdog to playing in a state championship game? And what would you say to that community as you step in to take over? What did you say to them?
Well, going forward, obviously what's happened during the last year is set the outlook and the platform for moving forward. So the expectation is tremendously high. What I can guarantee both the kids and the parents, I don't think, on the verge of sounding arrogant, I don't feel like anybody else is going to put a better product on the field and more prepared kids than what we will. Now, whether that means we win 10 games or 15 or 7, I don't know that answer. But what I do know is we're going to put a high-quality product out there, and when the bombs are going off, I'm going to be calm enough to hopefully make the right decisions. And I feel like my background has prepared me for the biggest games and the biggest stage. I mean,
you've been there.
I've been there, I've done it, and I'm comfortable there.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you for your time this morning, and we wish you the best of luck in the upcoming season, and hope that we get to travel back to Arlington, back to AT&T Stadium again, and watch those Brahmas play. And this is Shane Sibley with the Paul Pewitt Brahma Facebook page and Ben Bomber Productions, and this has been an interview with Coach Richard Strickland of Paul Pewitt High School.